attorney and longtime advocate for the rights of the elderly. His law practice, the Gruber firm, is on Twitter at NJ Elder Abuse. Saul, these numbers shocked me, I got to tell you. An estimated 5 million elderly victims of abuse in America each year, according to this 2010 National Elder Mistreatment Study. Crimes that cost $5.3 billion annually in medical costs. Victims of elder abuse are 3 times more likely to be hospitalized and 4 times more likely to end up in a nursing home than other elderly people. First of all, are these numbers accurate, and do you consider this an epidemic?
They're absolutely accurate, at least according to the government studies. It's been an epidemic for years. The question is, what do we need to do to make people understand that it's an epidemic? And one of the problems that I heard from Fred the Elephant Boy, somebody said something that was brilliant, which is make sure that we pay the people who are caring for residents of nursing homes better.
Well, you bring up the pay, and I was going to get to that, but let's get to it now. I mean, in New Jersey, I believe there's 4 different sets of elder workers talking about striking because they're not being paid a living wage. Is that a trend across the country that we're starting to see more workers walk out?
It's happening all over the northeast part of the country. It's happening here in New York. There were 70,000 people who were employees who were going to walk out both of hospitals and nursing homes because they're not being paid enough. When you think about you're an aide and your whole job is to care for the elderly and you're only being paid $10 an hour, how can you live on that? And who really suffers? It's the person in the nursing home.
I don't want to get off the subject, but if we pay these people more, ostensibly the nursing homes are going to pass on that cost to the government, the private people. Do you think people will be willing to pay more to try and ensure their loved one's safety?
And that's the key. I don't think you're accurate as to being passed off, because what's happening now is the nursing homes, the corporations that own the homes, are making tons of money. They're simply not putting it back into the homes. All we're saying to someone who bought a nursing home for $1.4 billion, hey, you know what? Instead of making $10 million a year, you'll make $9 million a year, and you'll make sure that the people in your home are cared for.
An article from the Legal Examiner in North Carolina that I found, it says that in 2013, just in that state, 21,000 reports of abuse, neglect, or exploitation of older adults. It went on to list a stat that says elder abuse occurs in about 30% of all nursing homes. So what's the solution? Is it more oversight?
I think the solution really is when we're looking at nursing homes, they are for-profit corporations they only make money but when they have people in the nursing homes. Their biggest their biggest cost is labor. So what you have to do is maybe take away the profit from a nursing home corporation and say you're not for profit anymore. Now it's for the people.
I'm going to open up to the group in just a moment, but let's say someone suspects or has, or is positive one of their loved ones is being abused. What legal options do they have? Are we talking civil lawsuits? Are we talking bring in the authorities? What should families do?
3 things. The first thing they should do is let the administrator and director of nursing at the nursing home know they suspect something's going on. The second thing they should do about 10 seconds later is call the ombudsman and the Department of Health and Senior Services. No matter what state you're in, you have it. The third thing is if it doesn't stop, call a lawyer.
I want to open it up to the group now for debate.
Leiberman Live, the panel.
I want to start with this, Fred the Elephant Boy. It was a scary anecdote from the New York Times. Doris Racker noticed that small things she had bought for her 96-year-old mother, Aretha Mayberry, a dementia patient at a nursing home in Oklahoma City, had been disappearing. So she placed a motion-activated camera in her mom's room. This is what the camera caught. An aide stuffing latex gloves into Mrs. Mayberry's mouth while another taunted her, tapped her on the head, laughed at her, hoisted her from her wheelchair, flung her on the bed. One performed a few heavy-handed chest compressions. Another hit her. And there's much more horrifying detail I'm going to spare you. But Fred, let's say this was you finding out your mom or dad was being abused. What would you do first?
I would kill the ad. That's it.
Tan Mom, propelled by the outcry over this Mayberry case, Oklahoma became just the 3rd state, along with New Mexico and Texas, to explicitly permit residents in long-term care facilities to maintain surveillance cameras in their rooms. Now, in the last 2 years, at least 5 states have considered similar legislations. Are hidden cameras the wave of the future for identifying abuse, Tan Mom?
I believe 100% that the cameras definitely should be in each and every room, because I saw so many things on CNN and where this mom was laying in the bed, maybe referring to what you spoke about, and tossed and turned. And my mom and dad are going into that era. And a lady that I just spoke to just said that her mom is being abused. And yes, each and every single thing. But then every time we talk about something, we go back to the government. The government.
What advice did you give that woman who shared with you that her mother was being abused?
She shared it to me before I went live with you, and my advice was, it wasn't actually advice. I was in a state of shock and so disgusted for her ma, and that they do not pay and cover the expenses, and then they're closed in a room and abused. Period. Exclamation.
Well, I hope she's listening to Saul Gruber. Saul, let me ask you this. One kind of abuse the elderly face is financial exploitation. The Administration on Aging estimates it costs the elderly $3 billion a year. How do we combat that?
I think we combat it the same way. What happens is you have the elderly that are so vulnerable. People are taking advantage of them left and right, especially when they're going not so much in nursing homes, but assisted living facilities and independent living facilities. They're taking all their Social Security money. They're signing everything over. If you think there's something going on, call someone. If you think your mom something's happening that's not supposed to happen, get on the phone right away and call the state.
Be active is what you're saying.
Don't
be afraid.
You have to be active.
Fred the Elephant Boy, in March, the Obama administration submitted what I thought was a modest proposal, $25 million to fund the Elder Justice Act. It would have done a lot of things. It would have funded grants to test ways to detect and prevent elder abuse, strengthen data collection, and support research into the issue. The bill got gutted down to $10 million. $10 million. Why isn't this a priority for our lawmakers, Fred?
They actually do not vote.
Are you saying they're not a strong enough voting bloc? Lobbyists don't care about the elderly? Is that true, Saul?
I think it's absolutely true.
Tan Mom from Sandra Tate. She's in Allen County, the Ohio Crime Victim Services Board of Directors. Quote, the statistics on elderly abuse are most likely underestimated, as many victims suffer in silence because they're either unable or too frightened to tell about the violence. They're afraid that if they report a family member, a caretaker, or even an employee in a nursing home, that nothing will happen, that there might be retaliation, or that their caretaker might be taken away quickly. What can be done, Tan Mom, to encourage these people to come forward?
You have to come forward, stand tall, believe in what's going on, stand tall for your family, and it goes back to the government always, and just forget everybody. When your family member is at stake, or anybody that is in harm's way, a child, this, that, or the other thing, get up and do something about it. And who cares about the ramifications about jail or what somebody else says?
Saul, I'm going to give you the final word. A letter to the Washington Post today says, quote, Congress has established and funded national networks to protect children and even animals from abuse, but no similar system exists to protect vulnerable adults. It's time for Congress to prioritize the health and safety of all Americans, regardless of age. Do you see this happening?
I don't see it happening as we sit here right now. I don't think our legislature or our rulemakers are going to do it.
I want to thank my absolutely terrific panel. Saul Gruber is an attorney at the Gruber firm. He's an expert on this issue. You can find his firm on Twitter at NJ Elder Abuse. And, of course, my Whack Pack panel.